where we put you on the map. This is Ron Costa broadcasting live from the Mapable USA studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. And folks, we're going to talk about a concept here that everybody's talking about right now in the investment world. It's really interesting, and you know about it. I'm sure you do, but we're going to get into it a little bit. Vicky Hutchmala from the World Token Market. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Ron. Doing great. It's Vegas. It's fabulous. But, you know, we're getting into July, and now we're getting into the 110 to 120 temperatures, which is just delighting all of us. But we have a repeat guest on our podcast today that we haven't talked to for a while, and I think we're going to have an exciting podcast. So let's get started.
Yeah, you know, Vicky, I was just thinking, do people need food?
Well, you know, it's one of those things that they kind of need to have food, and we're going to talk about how to overcome that situation.
Okay, let's introduce Artem Milinchuk. Artem's the CEO and founder of FarmTogether. Artem, how are you doing over there today?
Doing great. Great to be back, guys. Thanks for having me.
Always our
Excellent,
pleasure,
excellent.
Artem.
Yeah, we had a really good podcast with you a while back, and we talked about what you were doing at FarmTogether, and now here it is, maybe about, I don't know, a year later, and you guys made some tremendous strides. I know you guys have really been doing some great things in your company.
Indeed, yeah, and you know what you mentioned about people still need to eat a year later. Everything somehow we still need to eat. I don't know what science is doing, but yeah, that's where we are.
Yeah, exactly. So listen, maybe somebody didn't catch that last podcast with you. Can you give our audience a little bit of a background on yourself and what FarmTogether does?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Artem Milinchuk. I'm the founder and CEO of FarmTogether, a tech-enabled farmland investment platform. Started this in early 2018. My background is Canadian and Russian. I moved to North America back in 2007, so many moons ago now. And for 10 years or so before starting FarmTogether, I was in finance with a lot of exposure to food, agriculture, some farmland, kind of commodities, both in North America as well as globally. So I have a really good wide background of understanding this market. And what always blew my mind was that you have this huge asset class farmland that is really important because we all need to eat. And it was just very hard to invest into this critical industry for almost everyone, not just retail investors, but larger institutional investors. So I started to make it easy to invest in farmland, moved to the United States in 2018. So now we, as of today, have almost 40 people on the team.
Wow.
Many farms, approaching 40 farms in the United States, from everything from corn and soybean to almonds to apples to pears. And yeah, it's been quite a ride, and it's been fantastic to give so many people the opportunity to access this asset class and to work with some really truly excellent farmers to help them expand their business as well.
Are all your projects in the United States, Artem, or are you global yet?
Just United States for now, yeah.
And you know, the last time we talked to you about FarmTogether, I can imagine that things have changed, and especially in the economy situation where there's supply chain issues and there's fertilizer issues and just water, all kinds of extra issues that weren't impacting farmland before. How is FarmTogether overcoming these issues, or is it? Tell us about how it's impacting farmland.
Yeah, absolutely. So, last year, this year has been anything but boring. Events are happening that are sort of, once in a lifetime, except they all happen in a year. So it's kind of crazy to be living through historic times, as the old curse goes, may you live in interesting times. So it's been, it's definitely been a mixed bag. So on the one hand, the farmland values in 2021, a lot of them have increased by double digits, 20% or more. And that's been driven by high commodity prices, of course, the war in Ukraine, where the wheat prices have skyrocketed because Ukraine is a major producer. So land prices have gone up quite a bit. On the other hand, of course, we have high inflation. And until recently, we also had rapidly increasing inputs for farmers, which, was creating a difficult situation for farmers because they pay up front for the input costs so that they get financing. And then they sort of, have to wait to reap the harvest, and you will have fuel prices going up, labor prices going up, fertilizer prices went through the roof, although they have come down. So it's been quite a ride, and it really depends. Farmland is not homogeneous. It depends where you were, what you were doing. California has been struggling with drought, though our farms have done quite well because we're well positioned and always do due diligence on water. Row crop farmland has done very well. Illinois, corn and soybean land. Almonds have struggled because of supply chain issues, well publicized, hard to get containers, how to get things out. So it's a very chaotic environment, but we always kind of come back to the point that farmland should be a long-term investment. It's a 10-year plus horizon that we have on our deals, and really we encourage people to think about this in decades, even generations, so you can pass on your investment to kids. And in those periods, I have no doubt farmland will do incredibly well, as it has already. So we can talk more about that, but it's definitely been a very challenging, interesting, exciting, sad in a lot of ways year for people, for farmers to some extent, and really depends. Yeah, it's a huge market, $3 trillion in U.S. alone. So it's been a very, very dynamic year.
Have these issues that have, like you say, once in a lifetime type issues, have they brought more farmland onto the market that's available for you to invest in? Is there more land, or are there farmers that are just giving up on doing farming altogether because of the challenges that are happening now?
So I have not seen evidence that more farmers are kind of leaving farming. I think if anything, at least anecdotally, it seems that they've been expanding just because of how strong the crop prices have been, but it hasn't been without challenges because land prices have been going up, input prices have been going up. So I haven't seen that, but in terms of the what was the first part of your question? Can you repeat that part?
Well, I'm wondering if the challenges, the fertilizer, the diesel prices, all of those challenges that are different, have they put more farmland on the market that you can either invest in or purchase to invest in?
Yes.
Or is that even an issue?
So yes and no. There's definitely, we've seen kind of farmland coming to the market because of high prices where some farmers want to capitalize on that. To remind your listeners and you guys, average age of farm in U.S. is approaching 60, and then a lot of kids don't want to farm, so there's a lot of land just expected to change hands every year now because of that. But the issue we have found is the land offered, the prices were too high given our expectations of further land price appreciation, as well as forecasts of crop pricing, as well as the cost structure. So we thought, same as, with a lot of other asset classes, where we felt that farmland kind of ran a little bit ahead of itself price-wise. And so we've been staying a lot of it on the sidelines last quarter, just not finding deals that we thought were kind of adequately priced. And we, even versus last year, a lot of our deals have come down in expected returns that we were kind of putting on the platform, where before we would have 10, 11% target IRR deals. This year we had closer to like 8, 9, because we just didn't feel that the prices and the crop prices would support a higher expected return. And people still invested in it because again, very few people have access to Farmland. Has a lot of great characteristics besides just returns, preservation of capital in periods of inflation. So we still had, deals sell out. It's just that I think right now it's definitely like a seller's market. So we want to be prudent.
If I'm looking at my investment portfolio and I want to diversify and get into other things, why should I consider investing in farmland as opposed to maybe other stocks or even bonds or even cryptocurrency? Why is farmland a good diversification of my portfolio?
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of diversification, the historical 1992 to 2021 now kind of correlation profile, which is another way to say diversification. A correlation of farmland is really low to most other asset classes. The highest that is to real estate, about 0.4, which is still not that significant. And I think even that divorced after COVID. So farmland is sort of a beast of its own. It sits sort of between bonds and timber and infrastructure and real estate. So it has some components of each one of those. And then within farmland itself as well, you have different trends that drive it. You could have, like almonds could have a really great year. A lot of almonds will come and so prices will drop. You might have like drought issues, so a lot of people might be selling it, so you can have opportunity to buy good land. So even within farmland, you have very different trends going on. But in general, farmland is very uncorrelated to other asset classes, so it provides good diversification. Yeah, it's to give you an example, in the last two periods of falling stock prices. So we had 2008, 2009, great financial crisis. Farmland then was up 20+%, the index. In the COVID times when everything was down also, we remember all this, 2020, things were down 20, 30, 40%. Farmland was essentially flat. And, I'm very confident that we're going to see same performance right now with how Q1, Q2 is going in terms of market correction, where farmland is probably like flat, maybe even increasing. So it's especially in periods of recession when everything is, seems like falling down with no end in sight, farmland holds up really well.
Well, yeah, that's a big point. Tell us about your investment portfolio then. I mean, I don't mean your investment portfolio, but your investment portal to invest in FarmTogether.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Tell us about your investment portal to so our listeners can invest in FarmTogether. What do they have to do, or how do they go about it, or how does it work?
Yeah, absolutely. So you go to FarmTogether.com. It's open to both U.S. and international investors. Right now, only accredited investors are accepted if you're in the United States. What that means is that you need to have an income over a certain threshold, depending if you're married or single, or a net worth of a certain threshold. And, those things change a little bit. There's some additional rules that recently came out that make it a little easier. But for now, unfortunately, we only can allow accredited investors. And the minimum is typically $15,000. So when you go online, there's a lot of educational materials, first of all, that you can read and really understand what to look for in a particular investment, what to look for in terms of risks. And we put out a very easy to understand kind of risk-reward profile matrix that sort of tells you where you are where each deal falls on that kind of dichotomy. When you go online, you register. It's very quick. We then check your accreditation, and then after that, you're ready to invest in any deal. And investment is really simple. You see the deal, you click invest, you choose the investment amount, you sign all documents online, and then you're done and you can track your investment portal. You get the updates through the investment portal. We send a lot of also cool kind of videos, interviews with farmers, photos. Like I just was visiting some farms in Oregon, just gorgeous hazelnut farms, and had a lot of really good videos with kind of our farmland manager there. So yeah, it's all done online on farmtogether.com. Really, really simple to use.
That sounds pretty cool, Artem. It's funny. A couple of years ago, I guess people would look at farmland investing a little differently, but then you read all these articles about how people like Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos are all actively investing in farmland themselves. In fact, I think Bill Gates is the largest private landowner of farmland in the entire United States. I think, but that certainly helps
That's
people
right.
now understand the importance or the reason why people may want to invest in this kind of stuff. Because if Bill Gates does it, and he's no idiot, maybe that's something that people can look into, right?
Yep. Yeah. And Bill Gates, one thing that I just want to mention, because Bill Gates does come out quite a bit, and he has about 300,000 acres, which is a lot of farmland. But keep in mind that the United States has 900 million acres. So even he is just a rounding error in how much farmland there is in the United States. And it just shows you also how much food we need, how much land we need. And that land is decreasing every year. Like some changes due to climate change, due to urbanization, due to farmers leaving, no one else left to farm. Small towns dying in some areas like western Kansas. So it's a massive market.
I guess the only difference is that Bill Gates doesn't need to crowdfund, right? He has enough money himself.
he's the crowd.
But so okay, and then let's talk about this portal a little bit more now. This portal of yours that lists all your projects, right? It doesn't list other projects from different farms that maybe you guys don't own, right? This is all your stuff that you list, right?
That's right. Maybe in the future we'll have other farms that could just raise through our portal, but right now every deal we source and underwrite ourselves. So you have the benefit of piggybacking on an investment team and farm management team that comes from large farmland investment funds.
Okay. And are you guys doing anything similar to other companies that are maybe doing, let's say, vertical farming with these hydroponics in industrial buildings? Is that a market that you guys get into as well?
We don't do that yet, and I think it's because it's a little bit of a different beast. When you invest in farmland, most of your investment is in the land. Of course, the farmer matters a tremendous deal, but it's sort of what's called real asset investing. Same as you invest in timber in a road. Road could change in operator or building, but at the end of the day, most of your value is in the asset, in the kind of underlying physical reality of your investment. And so that's what we're giving people access to, although, of course, again, operator matters a lot. In vertical farming, it's a little bit different. It's very much the building that you rent, typically the systems, how you run it, it's kind of different. It's much more like an operating business. And so we have, to date, have not looked at that as something that we want to offer. Longer term, absolutely. I think we want to give people access to different investment opportunities, and vertical farming has its place. But it's just, for us, again, we don't want to boil the ocean. It is such a huge market that we find, we are, even with all our growth, still tiny, and even Bill Gates is tiny. So we want to make sure that we can address the main farming community first with our solutions and our financings.
Yeah, you might as well do what you're good at. Stay laser focused and make sure that you create a good product that you're doing right now. So
that's right.
You mentioned earlier in the podcast that when you look at some of these farms that you want to purchase, the farmer is around 60 years old. He's getting older there. The kids don't want to do it anymore. So this might be a good asset to pick up and acquire for you guys. Now you buy this farm, though. But now the problem, again, is that the farmer doesn't want to farm it, right? So isn't there a component there that you have to come in and place a farmer in there at that point? Even if you have a great deal, you still have to get the farmer in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually a great question, where a lot of our deals come from the farmers that we partner with. So it's farmer-led opportunities. We work with, I'll give you two examples, with Stimilt, one of the largest apple growers in the country. And we work with Raptor, which is the largest hazelnut grower in the country. And they have such a great line of sight onto excellent properties that we sort of follow them, where they will come to us and say, hey, we want to develop this farm, or we would like to sell and lease back this farm. So it's in a way, to the investors, our investors, it all looks like, hey, here's the farm, here's how it works, here's the return profile, the cash flow profile. But really, what FarmTogether does for farmers, if you want to kind of look under the hood, is provide creative, flexible financing that those farmers cannot get from a traditional bank. And so a lot of times the only other option they have is to somehow like sell the land to get the capital, whereas we come in a way that allows them to still have access to the land. Oftentimes they're actually able to buy the land back, either formally or informally. And so it gives farmers this sort of source of financing that is much more suited to their needs than everything else that's available in the market.
Yeah, I recently have been watching this Yellowstone with Kevin Costner. I don't know if this has anything to do with what you guys are doing farming, but it seems to me like somebody like that character, some older guy.
The TV show?
Doesn't want. Yeah. He doesn't want to let go of the land.
I heard a lot of good things about it. Yeah, I got to check it out.
Yeah. He doesn't want to let go of the land. He has no access to monetize it. And the kids just want to get rid of it. And it's just strange. It makes for a really interesting, I guess, investment.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Look, I'll check out that show. But what you're describing, it's very typical. I mean, again, I was just on a trip to our hazelnut farms in Oregon, and you have exactly this issue. So you have a gentleman who's a sixth-generation farmer. His parents came from, his ancestors came from France in like 1850s. And apparently they still have a castle there named after them. So they came here and they were farming. Then there was some family kind of feuds, a few generations back. And now his parents are close to retiring. And, they don't have enough. They cannot farm it, but they'd like to keep it. And then his son, so this gentleman's son is now farming. So he's able to farm some of the properties. And then they're looking to, thinking, okay, like how do we then, could we carve off a little bit of this? If we want to expand and plant new trees, how do we get capital? So there's issues around succession, issues around where you have, let's say, 3 siblings, 3 children. One wants to farm, 2 don't. How do they get the capital out? The sibling then might want to do something new. How does she get the capital to expand? There's all these questions that our families facing across the board, and then there's things like estate planning, taxes planning. What do you do with, climate change, where certain regions gradually are becoming less hospitable, and some are more hospitable to growing certain types of varieties. So yeah, it's absolutely fascinating. I love this space. I love talking to people, hearing their stories, hearing the history, like this gentleman of, the history of the family and the country through generations and through the lens of farming. So it's fascinating and something that, you're also able to read on our portal as we kind of tell you more about our farmers and the farms that you invest in.
Yeah, I can see as an investor why I would want to invest in farmland these days. It makes sense to me. And guys like you and the portals that make it easier to invest certainly make sense. To me, I would think your challenge would be to find farmers willing to, get on your platform. And how did the farmers find you? Is it something where, these old-time guys probably don't know about FarmTogether, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you actually get inventory?
Yeah. Well, so actually farmers are very technically savvy. I think it's a misconception. So they definitely find us online, and we get inbound requests all the time. But it's also, our model is more geared towards kind of medium-sized family businesses, and we find them as well. And so it's going through, first of all, our team comes from literally like decades, generations of experience in farming, and so there's a huge network that we have. And then secondly, the conferences we go to, we meet a lot of people. We reach out proactively ourselves. They reach out to us. Word spreads around as well. You buy a farm in a particular region and suddenly like other neighbors start calling you up. So it's very, reputation driven.
Right. And do these guys who are looking at you agriculturally, you mentioned the pistachios, the almonds, the apples. Do you guys do any livestock as well with cattle and things like that?
We don't do livestock, no.
Okay.
Do you do vineyards, Artem?
We do. We actually just soon to close a vineyard in California.
Oh, very nice. So you'll make the wine as well as grow the grapes, huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Listen, you know what?
Makes the food go down better.
That's right. Yeah. And one thing to mention about farms that I think a lot of people don't fully internalize or understand is that when you're investing in farmland, especially on the West Coast, but in a way everywhere, you're also investing in water. So it's not just food, but
right.
water that you're investing in.
And there's so many issues with water, especially in states like California, where water is a serious issue, and without it, no matter what the land is or what it is that you're growing, without the water, you can't do anything. So is that an issue, a major issue that you have to overcome, or is it just something that's part of the process?
So there's a lot of headlines about California, and they're all very apocalyptic about water. And you'll see things like mega drought, record drought. And so first of all, California has been going through droughts for forever. Secondly,
long time.
Yeah, it's just something that happens, although they will be getting more severe because of climate change. So in order to address this, California introduced what's called SGMA, Sustainable Groundwater Management Act regulation that will enforce more sustainable water management, because California, of course, doesn't want to lose its huge agricultural industry. And that will lead, by different estimates, of about 1 million acres going fallow, going out of business, and they will still be in farms. And there's about 8 to 9 million acres in California, so you're going to lose that. But the farms that will remain will be more resilient, will be more sustainable, and that's still the majority of farmland there. So in California, we are very focused on doing due diligence on water and making sure that we have access to water in all scenarios. And that's the thing, is that, look, there's no getting away from California if you want to invest in farmland. It has an incredible climate, very unique for some nuts like almonds, and more important, well, equally importantly, I should never say anything is more important than weather in farming, but equally important is the ecosystem, the amount of people, and I mean the business ecosystem, the amount of people, facilities, scale that exists is incredible. Just the depth of the talent pool, of the facilities, infrastructure, closeness to ports. It's very important, right? Farming doesn't happen in isolation. You're not, building Facebook where you could be anywhere. You need to have access to the overall kind of ecosystem. So I'm very bullish on California long term. It's just important to, properly understand the water risks, which we do on every deal. We spend a lot of time on that.
Yeah.
So does California do salination, where they take the water from the ocean and take the salt out in order to use that for agriculture?
So that, I think there's some projects going on there that have been slow, but it's not moving the needle right now, and I think it's just too expensive. I think it works for urban use, but desalination is still expensive, although solar improvements in those technologies are getting better and better, so it's part of the solution. But really, my personal view is that the solution is more infrastructure in California, because the saying we often have is that there's actually enough water in California, just not in the right places. A lot of water just gets flushed to the oceans. There's not enough right infrastructure to kind of to capture it properly. Yeah.
Well, if there's not a lot of water in California, then wait till you see Las Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys know. You guys know the importance of water.
Yeah, we understand water and the lack of it.
But anyway, Artem, before we close this out, I do want to just get back to one thing. You mentioned earlier, investors for this have to be an accredited investor in the United States. Is that right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay. So when they go to their website, your website, and they sign up, or they're interested in a project, do they just have to claim that they're accredited, or is there an accredited process that they go through online?
There's a process. We check your documents. Yeah, we check your documents. Okay. Typically, it's your W-2, your income, or proof of net assets, like a statement from your broker, your accountant. There's, I'm trying to think the latest number, millions of accredited investors in the United States. So it's a very common procedure. Like if you're accredited, typically you probably have gone through this already. And we are working. We're working. We'd love to. Just it's a different scale to open this up to non-accredited investors as well. Just as you can imagine, serving millions of people is very different, and you still want to make sure they have excellent clients.
And then when they download the offering documents at that point, and they want to invest, now are they investing in a particular project, or are they investing in the top-level FarmTogether company?
So they're investing in a particular project, not in the company. And we also now, this is news, we also have a new product, a Farmland fund, that will be building a diversified portfolio. So if you just want to invest once and kind of forget, instead of waiting there and when the deal comes and then having to rush in, because sometimes deals sell out in minutes, the fund is a better solution.
And is that fund active today?
It is. Yeah, it is active today. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And do you invest in opportunity zones in rural areas where there are farms in existence, or where you can put in a farm for whatever?
We looked at that, and we still want to do it. It's just, again, the legal paperwork is very expensive.
Right.
And so it's, to your point about being laser focused, we just want to be laser focused. So we don't do that. Now, we do 1031 exchanges, though. So for those not familiar, it's a tax-efficient way to exchange your real estate property for a farm or a stake in a farm. So we do that, too.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's really good.
And like you said, it's easier to become an expert in what you're doing and stay focused than to try and add too many things to the pile and then not do anything well.
That's right, yeah.
So Artem, if somebody wants to get a hold of you or get more information on this, whether they be farmers or investors or whatever, what's the best way to contact you? How should they get a hold of you?
So info@farmtogether.com, or if they want to email me personally, I'm happy to as well. It's Artem, ARTEM, @farmtogether.com.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that everything that we talked about, your farming projects, your apples, your pistachios, your almonds, all that other stuff, I think if I was to just eat a steady diet of everything that you guys have, I'd probably be a lot healthier, right?
Yeah, we don't have a greasy cheeseburger farm yet.
You can't grow those yet, Artem? Oh, my gosh.
No, those don't grow on trees.
Yeah. So has this been enlightening? Has this been enlightening in terms of opportunities in farmland? I mean, people don't even realize this, and now we've brought it to their forefront once again, right?
Exactly.
All right, great. So listen, Artem, this was really good. Thank you for taking the time out for talking to our audience again. We love having you on the show. This is another great podcast, and I think it really opens people's eyes in terms of what you guys are doing and the opportunities that are out there in farmland that they probably wouldn't even realize if they didn't talk to you, right?
I appreciate that. No, it's always great to be on your show.
Yep. Thank you so much again. And Vicky, thanks for co-hosting this episode. And folks, you're listening to the Mappable USA podcast at MappableUSA.com. If you go to that website, you scroll down, you'll see all our syndication sources. Just pick the one you like best, subscribe, and you'll never miss another one of our episodes. If you want to be a guest on the show, like Artem was today, there's a guest tab there. Fill that out. We'll see what we can do about getting you on the show. And lastly, if you like what you heard today, send us an email at info@MappableUSA.com, or just leave a comment on whatever page you're listening to this on right now. So thanks for listening. Thanks for the support. We'll be at you next time with another Mappable USA podcast. Have a great week, everyone.